Hello, everyone. This is day 5 of reading every single day for a year. I am going to set the timer. 30 minutes and 10 seconds starting now. Here we go. Justification. Put life into all the imagined circumstances and actions until you have completely satisfied your sense of truth, and until you have awakened a sense of faith in the reality of your sensations. This is what we call justification of a part. What difference is there between the dry catalogue of facts as read when I first became acquainted with the play and the present appraisal of those same facts? Now they are living events in an infinitely exciting day. I am impregnated with life, indeed my own. Kernel of a play or part. The aim of a theater should be to create the inner life of a play in its physical embodiment of the stage in consonance with the essential kernel and idea which gave birth to the work of the playwright. The problem for our art and consequently for our theater is to create an inner life for a play and its characters, to express in physical and dramatic terms the fundamental core, the idea which impelled the writer, the poet, to produce his composition. Limitations. Some actors do not fully realize the limitations placed on them by nature. They undertake problems beyond their powers to solve. The comedian wants to play tragedy. The old man wants to be a joueur premier. To simple type longs for heroic parts, and the soubrette for dramatic. This can only result in forcing, impotence, and stereotyped mechanical action. These are shackles, and your only means of getting out of them is to study your art and yourself in relation to it. Living apart. The approach we have chosen, the art of living apart, asserts that the main factor in any form of creativeness is the life of a human spirit, that of the actor and his part, their joint feelings of subconscious creation. What we hold in the highest regard are impressions made by our emotions, which leave a lifelong mark on the spectator and transform actors into real living beings. Aside from the fact that it opens up avenues for inspiration, living apart helps the artist to carry out one of the main objectives. His job is not to present merely the external life of his character. He must fit his own human qualities to the life of the other person, and pour into all of his own soul. An artist takes the best that is in him and carries it over on the stage. The form will vary according to the necessities of the play, but the human emotions of the artist will remain alive, and they cannot be replaced by anything else. Therefore, no matter how much you act, how many parts you take, you should never allow any exception to the rule of using your own feelings. Salvini said, the great actor should feel the thing he is portraying, not only once or twice while he is studying his part, but to greater or lesser degree every time he plays it, no matter whether it is the first or 1,000th time. Always act in your own person. You can never get away from yourself. The moment you lose yourself on the stage marks the departure from truly living your part and the beginning of an exaggerated false acting. Spiritual realism, truth of artistic feelings. These are the most difficult achievements of our art. They require long, arduous inner preparation. The difference between my art and that practiced by others is the difference between seeming and being. Living image. Each dramatic and artistic image created on the stage is unique and cannot be repeated, just as in nature. Without an external form, neither your inner characterization nor the spirit of your image will reach the public. The external characterization explains and illustrates. An actor is called upon to create an image while he is on stage and not just show himself off to the public. All actors who are artists, creators of images, should make use of characterization. There are some actors for whom the image they have created becomes their alter ego, their double. The image never leaves them. They constantly watch the image, not in order to copy it, but because they find themselves under its spell, in its power, and they act thus or thus because they are living the life of their image. Logic and continuity. In every phase of our work, we constantly had occasion to speak of logic and continuity. They are of prime importance. Creating must be logical and have continuity. Even illogical and incoherent characters must be represented within the logical plane plan and framework of a whole play, a whole performance. How to accomplish this? By means of physical actions, because they are easier to establish, materially and visually, and are yet closely tied to all the other elements. It is easier to orient one's self with their aid, having prepared a logical and coherent line in physical actions. We discover that parallel to it will run a logical and coherent line of emotion. Come to the tragic part of a role, gradually and logically, by carrying out correctly your sequence of external physical actions and by believing in them. Do not think about your emotions. Think about what you have to do if you do not adhere strictly to an absolute pattern of logic and continuity. You are in danger of conveying passions, images, actions in a generalized form. If an actor keeps in constant exercise, he will come to know practically all human actions from the point of view of their component parts. If an actor keeps in constant exercise, he will come to know practically all human actions from the point of view of their component parts, their secutiveness, and their logic. But this work must be done daily, constantly, like the vocalizing of a singer or the exercises of a dancer. Systematic and absorbedly valid exercises of actions without props. Magic if. From the moment of the appearance of the magic if the actor passes from the plane of actual reality into the plane of another life created and imagined by him. In order to be emotionally involved in this imaginary world which the actor builds on the basis of a play, in order to be caught up in the action on the stage, he must believe in it. This does not mean he should give up himself to anything like hallucination. Quite the contrary. He does not forget that he is surrounded by stage scenery and props. He asks himself, but if this were real, how would I react? What would I do? And normally, naturally, this if acts as a lever to lift him into a world of creativity. Ooh, that's so cool. If I was here. Acting is so fucking cool, bro. I want to do this so bad. The secret of the effect of if is that it does not use fear of force. Another quality, it arouses an inner and real activity, an instantaneous inner stimulus, adds a whole series of contingencies based on your own experience in life, and you will see how easy it will be for you to sincerely to believe in the possibility of what you were called upon to do on the stage. Makeup. One feature in my makeup gave a living and comic expression to my face, and something suddenly turned within me. All that had been dim became clear. All that was groundless suddenly had ground under its feet. All that I did not believe in suddenly found my trust. Something had ripened within me, slowly filling with life while it was in the bud, and now at last it bloomed. An accidental touch of makeup brush on my face served to open the flower of a role. Every actor should have an attitude of a great respect, affection, and attention for his makeup. It must not be laid on mechanically, but, if one can say so, with psychology while he broods over the soul and life of his part. Then the slightest wrinkle will acquire its inner basis from something in life that produced it. Material for creativeness. You must constantly be adding to your store. For this purpose you draw, principally upon your own impressions, feelings, and experiences. You also acquire material from life around you, real and imaginary, from reminiscences, books, art, and science, knowledge of all kinds, from journeys, museums, and above all, from communication with other human beings. We are asked to interpret the life of human souls all over the world. An actor creates not only the life of his times, but that of the past and future as well. That is why he needs to observe, conjecture, to experience, to be carried away with emotion. If his creation is to interpret the past, the future, or an imaginary epoch, he has either to reconstruct or to recreate something out of his imagination. The inner experience of an actor, the circle of his living impressions and emotions, should certainly be constantly enlarged, because it is only under such conditions that an actor can extend the circle of his own creativeness. measure, proportion. We cannot leave things to chance. An actor must know how to proceed under ordinary circumstances. When a whole act is too large to handle, how to break it up. If one detail is not sufficient, add others. A sense of measure will help. On the stage, it is easy for an actor to lose his sense of measure. It seems to him he is doing too little, that with a big audience he should do a lot more. Knowing this peculiarity of the stage, he should not increase his activity, but rather cut 3/4 of it. I really hope my new haircut's good, guys. I'm getting a taper, like, fringe, bro. This shit better be fire, bro. It's just my face shape. I don't know if it's gonna work. I have like a diamond square. I don't know. In mechanical acting, there is no necessity for a living process. You will understand this better when you come to recognize the origins and methods of mechanical acting, when we characterize as rubber stamp. Some of these established cliches have become traditional and are passed down from generation to generation. Still, others are invented by the actors themselves. Time and constant habit make even senseless things near and dear. No matter how skillful an actor may be in his choice of stage conventions, because of their inherent mechanical quality, he cannot move the spectators by them, so he takes refuge in what we call theatrical emotions. They are a sort of artificial imitation of peripheral of physical feelings. The very worst fact is that cliches will fill up every empty spot in a role, which is not already solid with the living feeling. Moreover, they often push in ahead of feeling. That is why an actor must protect himself most consciously against such devices. And this is true even of gifted actors, capable of true creativeness. Memory. At moments of intense creativeness, one's memory may fail and break the continuity of the line of transmitting the verbal text of the play. This preoccupation with remembering the words when an actor is unsure of himself deprives him of the capacity to give himself freely and wholly to his ardent creative mood. It is all important for an actor to have a good memory. I gotta work on that. Method. See, what is my system? Mirror. Use of. You must be very careful in the use of a mirror. It teaches an actor to watch the outside rather than the inside of his soul, both in himself and in his part. Mise en scène. The responsibility for creating this ensemble for its artistic integrity, the expressiveness of the overall performance, lies with the director. In the period when the director was a despot, he worked out the whole plan of the production. He indicated the general outlines of the parts, taking into consideration of course, the participating actors, and he showed them all the business. But now I have arrived at the conviction that the creative work of the director must proceed to unison with that of actors and not outdistance it nor hold it back. He must facilitate the creativeness of the actors, supervise and integrate it, taking care that involves naturally and only from the true artistic kernel of the play. This joint work of the director and the actors, this search for the essential kernel of the play, begins with analysis and proceeds along the line of through-going action. This implies also to the external shaping of a performance that should be, in my opinion, the objective of a director nowadays. Naivete. This is a precious asset for an actor. It cannot be fabricated, or the result is affectation. So be naive to the extent that it is part of your nature to be so. Every actor is to some degree naive, but ordinary life he is embarrassed to show this quality, so he masks it. Do not do that when you are on the stage. In order to induce naivete, an actor should be concerned, not with the quality itself, but with what promotes and also what interferes with it. The thing that interferes with it most of all is a spirit of carping criticism. In order to be naive, one cannot be over meticulous and analytical when using one's imagination. The greatest help to naivete are faith and a sense of truth. Therefore, in the first instance, seek out what is true for you and that in good in which you have faith. I'm already yawning, bro. It's the morning. Naturalism. Those who think that we sought naturalism on the stage are mistaken. We never leaned toward such a principle. We sought inner truth, the truth of feeling and experience, continuing to play the new for the sake of the new. We declared war on such an interpretation of peasant plays. We wanted to show the real Masuk peasant in not only the costume but also the inner physique of his soul. But we had not reached the stage where he could interpret the spiritual side in order to fill the void. We exaggerated the external side. This remained without inner justification, but for lifeless objects, properties, and sounds began to bulge out of the general scheme. This resulted in naked naturalism, and the nearer it was to reality, the worse it was. Naturalism on the stage is only naturalism when it is justified by the inner experience of the actor. I would advise all theoreticians who do not know this from their own experience to see my words tested on the stage. You use naturalism for the sake of naturalism. That kind of objective is the kind of scenic truth is an anti-artistic. Nature. The greatest artist we know is nature, the creative nature of all artists, which is in all the centers and parts of our physical and spiritual makeup, even those of which we are not aware. We have no direct means of approaching her, but there exist oblique ones which are a little known. This admitted lack of knowledge is the outgrowth of wisdom. To me, it is the urge to attain, with the help of a sensitive heart, the unattained, and it will be attained in time. In the expectation of these new triumphs of science, I have felt there was nothing for me to do except to devote my labors and energy almost exclusively to the study of creative nature. I have acquired some experience in the course of long years of work, and this is what I have sought to share with you. The most powerful, vivid, and convincing adaptations are the products of that wonder-working artist's nature. They are almost wholly of subconscious origin. Here is an example of intuitive adjustment as an expression of supreme sorrow. In my life in art, there is a description of how a mother received the news of the death of her son. In the first few moments, she expressed nothing but began hurriedly to dress. Then she rushed to the street door and cried, "Help!" An adjustment of that sort cannot be reproduced either intellectually or with the aid of technique. It is created naturally, spontaneously, unconsciously, at the very moment when emotions are at their height. Yet that type, so direct, vivid, and convincing, represents the effective method we need. It is only by such means that we create and convey to an audience of thousands all the finer, barely perceptible shades of feeling. But to such experiences, the only approach is through intuition and the subconscious. In the realm of intuition and subconscious, I know nothing, except that these secrets are open to the great artist's nature. You can go astray only if you do not have confidence in nature. Nature's laws are binding all, without exception, and woe to those who break them. Objectives. Life, people, circumstances constantly put up barriers. Each of these barriers present us with the objective of getting through it. The division of a play into units to study its structure, that one purpose. There is another, far more important inner reason. At the heart of every unit lies a creative objective. Every objective must carry in itself the germs of action. You should not try to impress the meaning of your objective in terms of a noun, but always employ a verb. I wish, or I wish to do. This objective engenders outbursts of desires for the purposes of creative aspiration. It is important that the actor's objectives be in accordance with his capacities. At first, it is better to choose simple physical but attractive objectives. Every physical objective will contain something of a psychological objective. They are indissolubly bound together. Do not try too hard to define the dividing line. Go by your feelings, always tipping the scale slightly in favor of the physical. The right execution of a physical objective will help to create a right psychological state. An actor should know how to distinguish among the qualities of objectives, avoiding the irrelevant ones and establishing those appropriate to his part. Appropriate objectives must be on our side on the footlights, personal yet analogous to those of the characters portrayed, truthful so that you yourself, the actors playing with you and your audience, can believe in their clear-cut purpose. They must be distinctly woven into the fabric of your part, active, to push your role ahead and not let it stagnate. Let me warn you against purely motor objectives, which are prevalent in the theater and lead to mechanical performance. Observation. An actor should be observant not only on the stage but also in real life. He should concentrate with all his being on whatever attracts his attention. There are people gifted by nature with the powers of observation. When you hear such people talk, you are struck by the amount that an observant person misses. Average people have no conception of how to observe the facial expressions, the look of the eye, and the tone of the voice in order to comprehend the state of the mind the person of whom they talk. If they could do this, their creative work would be immeasurably richer, finer, and deeper. This calls for a tremendous amount of work, time, desire to succeed, and systematic practice. How can we teach unobservant people to notice what nature and life are trying to show them? First, all they must be taught to look at, listen to, and to hear what is beautiful. Such habits elevate their minds and arouse feelings which leave deep traces in their emotions, memories. Nothing in life is more beautiful than nature, and it should not be in the object of constant observation. Take a little flower or a petal from it, or a spider web, or a design made by frost on the window pane. Try to express in words what it is in these things that give pleasure. Such an effort causes you to observe the object more closely, much more effectively, and do not shun the darker side of nature. Disfigurement often sets off beauty. Search out both beauty and its opposite and define them. Learn to know and see them. Next turn to what the human race has produced in art, literature, and music. Pauses in speech. The first work to be done with speech or the words is always to divide into measures, to place the pauses. The logical pause mechanically shapes the measures, whole phrases of the text, and thereby contributes to, unintelligibly, the psychological pause adds life to the thoughts. It is an eloquent silence. It helps to convey the subtextual content of the words. If speech without the logical pause is unintelligible, without the psychological pause it is lifeless. The logical pause serves our brain, the psychological our feelings. There is one other kind of pause, just sufficient for a quick intake of breath. The pause is an important element in our technique of speech. Performance. It is only when it is performed on the stage that a play is revealed in all its fullness and essence. It is only when the living soul of a play, of its text and subtext, is conveyed by the actors. By adhering to their inner line of images, the actors remain true to the subtext and through line of action. And by the same token, they renew their emotion memories which enable them to live their parts. There may be certain variations, but that is all to the good, as spontaneity and the unexpected are both excellent stimuli to creativity. The tempo rhythm of a play is made up of a series of varying tempi and rhythms, harmoniously blended into a single whole. The overall effects may be one of a grandeur, majesty, lightness, gaiety, accordance to whatever tempi and rhythm preponderate. Their importance in any given performance is in any case enormous. A fine play, well produced and acted, may not be successful because it is performed in too slow a tempo or hurried along in an inappropriately quick one. For actors, life on the stage represents real living. In every performance, our life is to pursue a super objective, along a through line of action among given circumstances. When actors mature in these parts and live in them, they can discard all superfluities. Then the roles are like crystals of emotions harmonizing with the overall tone, rhythm, tempo of the production. then the play is really ready to be performed in front of an audience. Performing in general. This phrase in general is the bane of the theater. It affects to it affect its effect is to blur all emotional outlines and prevent an actor from feeling any solid ground in which he can stand with confidence. In hurried or general descriptions, we care very little whether what we transmit correspond to reality. We are satisfied with any general artistic or illusion. These methods of portraying feeling in general exist in every one of us, and they are used without any relation to the why, wherefore circumstances in which a person has experienced them. Such ham acting is elementary to a ridiculous degree. On the stage, there cannot be, under any circumstances, action which is directed immediately at the arousing of a feeling for its own sake. Never seek to be jealous, or to make love, or to suffer. For its own sake, all such feelings are the result of something that has gone before. True art and performing in general are incompatible. True art and performing in general are incompatible. The one destroys the other. Art does not tolerate anyhow in general, approximately. Perspective in character building. Perspective means the calculated harmonious interrelationship and distribution of the parts in a whole play or role. There can be no acting without its appropriate perspective. Only after an actor has thought through, analyzed, and felt himself to be living a person inside his whole part, there opens up to him the long, beautiful, beckoning perspective against this depth of background, and he can play out whole actions, speak whole thoughts. When he come to laying down on the color along the lines of artistic perspective, we gain and obliged to adhere to qualities of consecutiveness, tone, and harmony. As in painting, artistic coloring does a very great deal to make it possible to distinguish planes. The important parts are most highly colored, whereas those regulated in the back are less vivid. As a part moves along, we have two perspectives in mind. The one is related to the character portrayed, the other to the actor. Actually, Hamlet, as a figure in a play, knows nothing of what the future has in store for him, whereas the actor who plays the part must bear this constantly in mind. He's obliged to keep in perspective. We must not forget one extremely important quality inherent in perspective. It lends a breadth, a sweep of momentum in our inner experiences and external actions. Perspective and the through line of action are not identical, but the one is the other's closest aid. Plasticity of emotion. The more subtle the emotions, the greater the clarity, precision, and plasticity needed to convey them in physical form. Among dramatic actors, some use plasticity for sole purposes of impressing their admirers of the opposite sex. Other actors kind of plasticity, and they pay no further attention to the side of their physical actions. If they would lend to an attentive ear to their own mechanics, they would sense an energy rising from the deepest wells of their being. It is charged with emotion, desires, and objectives, for the purpose of arousing this or that action. Energy, heated by emotion, charged with will, directed by the intellect, manifests itself in action, full of feeling, content, and purpose, which cannot be carried out in any slipshod, mechanical way, but must be fulfilled in accordance with its spiritual impulses. Movement and action which follow an inner pattern are essential to real artists in drama, ballet, and other theater and plastic arts. This is also true for other arts. Must have that same unbroken line of sound and music must have that same unbroken line of sound. And can a painter achieve the simple outline of a drawing without it? Art itself originates in the moment when that unbroken line is established, be it of sound, drawing or movement, that is the motion which creates fluency, the plasticity of body movement which is so necessary. At the foundation of plasticity of movement, one establish an inner flow of energy. External plasticity is based on our inner sense of movement of energy. Playwright dominates. A theater in which the most powerful personality is the playwright. Oh. Looks like 30 minutes yet. Alright, thank you for watching. I will continue. Oh my gosh, look. This is all I have to read, and I read that much. Look, that's all I have to read. I read that much. Can you see it? Yeah, so I have to read this much. I read that much. Let's go. Alright, thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Day 6, next one.